Oh, okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to see you here. I'm Franz Mueller, and I'm serve on the board of directors of ESRAG, which is the Environmental Sustainability Rotary Action Group, and I'm also co-chair of this plastic solution task force. And so in this position, I'd like to welcome you, everybody, you Rotarians and non-Rotarians, which we are happy to host here in this room for the presentation, which has the title, Rotary Family's Role in Ending Plastic Waste, a recommendation from the Plastic Solution Task Force, which is us. We have many people today. We're expecting really a big number of people, and I'm seeing you here already, many. So we will skip the verbal introductions, but please take a moment in introducing yourself in the chat. Including where you're from and links to any important information you want to share. This chat will be reminded by me at the end of the meeting so that you can record it and therefore you can get all the information for yourself for your use in the future. I remind you also that this meeting will be recorded, and so it will be available for you and for other people in the future in our YouTube channel. So we have a very tight program in this 1 hour meeting, and so we will save time for the questions, which are generally very important. So please think about your question during the meeting and write them, enter them in the chat so that at the end our Zoom director, Roderico Caviglia, will send them to the speaker or to me, trying then to answer to you. I take the occasion to thank Roderico Caviglia, which is our speaker, and will help this program to run smoothly, and also for having worked very well on our website, which I encourage you to see. It's esragplastics.org, and you will find a lot of useful information there. He posts 2 blogs per week, and about the project, the events, news, information, and so on. And then we also have a monthly newsletter, which includes a lot of these things. So thank you, Roderico, and we will give you then the information how to subscribe to the newsletter. And now it's time to introduce our speaker of today, Lori Cloutier, which you see here, and you may give her an applause if you want, at least a virtual applause. She serves as co-leader of this task force, Plastic Solution, and this task force is working to address the root causes of the plastic pollution, and also to help develop a global network to rethink and to influence how we create, unfortunately, and how we use and will dispose of the plastic. Lori served as executive director of Rotary Club of Auckland for so many as 25 years. And today she is a member of Pulsbo Rotary Club, where she created the Trash Talk Task Force in 2018. This Pousbo Club has diverted more than 45,000 pounds of plastic from landfill to become composite decking through a company, Trex Company Incorporated. Unfortunately, we have to say that during the time that work took place, more than 11,000 million tons per year of other plastics entered the ocean. Single-use plastic increased, and new plastic production not only continued, but sharply increased and continues for the next years. So, welcome, Lori. We go on very quickly. We are eager to learn about what you will say us today. Please, you have the floor.
Okay, are you seeing a title slide right here? Excellent. Okay. Oh my gosh, my Zoom has just quit. I'm going to switch to my mobile hotspot. Tammy, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me and see the screen? Okay, very good. Well, then let's get started. I see that we also have Diane Landry is trying to get on. Olderico, I don't know if you can see that. But let's get started here. So the role of Rotary Clubs in ending plastic waste, before we look at what needs to be done and how, I'm going to talk very quickly about two big reasons that it's important to work hard. One of them is the scale of plastic production in the world, and the other is health concerns. So let's start with one of the most terrifying and I think problematic kinds of packaging in the world, sachet packaging. Now the sachets are little packets of multi-layered pouches that were invented to hold things like ketchup and soy sauce back in the 50s. But in the 1980s, the international company Unilever, their Indian branch, put a little bit of shampoo in a sachet that just would work for one shampooing. And it could sell for 1 rupee in India. And suddenly a whole new market was born for international brands. This has created a huge economy. By 2004, it was a $13 trillion per year industry. And today, 5.5 million sachets of just laundry detergent, just in Indonesia, are sold. Worldwide, 855 billion are sold per year, and often to countries that don't have waste management infrastructure. This results in situations like this. The sachets have no place to go. They blow around in the wind, and they're not picked up by the traditional waste pickers because they have no value. They have 3 layers, 2 polymer layers with a metal layer that protects goods from heat and humidity, but they cannot be recycled at all. Yet they continue to flood in to countries with no capacity to manage that waste. So they end up blowing around. They are sometimes burnt in open fires and end up in our rivers and waterways. They also displace locally produced products, and they replace traditional methods of selling to people. People used to bring their own containers, which they would fill with items, and now those have been displaced. They've been displaced here at my local Safeway. You can look that canned tuna on the bottom 2 shelves is now sharing a lot of shelf space with the top 2 rows for tuna is sold in sachets. There is an expected increase in these sachets. They're so profitable, they are expected to increase 5.8% compounded annually until 2031. And the expansion is mostly planned for North American and Asian personal care and cosmetics sectors. So this problem is not going away anytime soon, and yet I have not been able to see any strong restrictive measures anywhere to start to limit their use. They seem to be politically resistant to being restricted. So is anybody working with trying to recycle these? Well, in the Philippines, in a suburb outside of Manila, they're putting into eco bricks about 15 to 18% of shredded sachets, and this increases the strength of the brick by about 30%. When this is up to full capacity, it could process and recycle 1 ton of these sachets every day. And 1 ton per day sounds nice. Until you see that the daily trash in the Philippines is 4,600 tons per day. And 1 ton is just not enough to make a true impact that will protect our animals and protect our waterways. Still a good idea to do. It's nice, but it doesn't have the impact we need to move the needle. Just like sachet production, plastic production is increasing at a tremendous rate. It doubles about every 10 years. It'll double again by 2040, and ocean plastics are expected to triple in that time. And part of the reason why, surprise slide, if plastic is so big that if it were a country, it would be the 5th largest producer of greenhouse gas emissions. So the scale of plastic is overwhelming. And part of the reason is that we are able to produce it so easily. So an example is this natural gas well. And we in the United States have some of the largest shale deposits in the world. And when we are pulling up the natural gas by fracking, hydraulic fracturing, we get a byproduct, ethane gas. And it's been kind of worthless in the past, and it was just flared off. But today, it is piped right over to ethane cracking facilities that apply a lot of heat and processes to create an ethylene molecule, which then can be turned into polyethylene, one of the biggest building blocks for plastics. This is a Dutch Shell facility in Pennsylvania that is just opening now. It's going to add 1.6 million tons per year when it's at full capacity of little beads of polyethylene. There was a glut in ethylene, and that keeps prices very low, very competitive, and a lot of smart people are working to figure out where they can use this ethylene, where they can sell it to create even more single-use packaging. So quite a bit of plastic is mismanaged and finds its way into our oceans. Imagine 5 grocery bags full of plastic sitting on 1 foot of your favorite beach. Now imagine 5 bags on every foot of beach and coastline in the entire planet. That gives you a picture of how much plastic is going into our oceans. And that was back when the amount was 8 million tons per year. That amount has grown. And what it does when it gets into the ocean is it breaks into microplastics because of the action of the sun thermodegrading or degrading it. And it doesn't just break into little miniature portions of the parent plastic. It actually produces 250 to 15,000 chemical compounds when it's exposed to sunlight in salt water. Some of these are known bad chemicals. Most of them, however, are unknown. These are crazy compounds. But the point is, it is not chemically inactive. I always thought plastic was an inert substance, but it is not at all. Part of the reason is because plastic products are not just resins. They also have additives, sometimes up to 70%. These change the mechanical properties of the plastic. It might make it more flexible or more clear or more fire retardant, but these chemicals create quite a chemical soup when they come into our oceans. We also have a lot of plastic in our air. So when your tires wear down, where does that tire rubber go? It's really not rubber, it's a synthetic. And a lot of it gets entrained into the atmosphere. And according to this particular study, which was conducted on US national parks, far from the sources of a lot of plastic, 1,000 tons each year are deposited over these vast tracts of national parklands. And they can study those, and they found out a whole lot of it is tire dust. And a lot of it are tiny textile fibers. So the little ones can get up into the atmosphere and cross continents. And the heavier ones tend to fall down to Earth, closer to their source. But this is another assault. If 1,000 tons are falling on our national parklands, how much is falling into our oceans that cover 3/4 of the surface of the planet? So the size and magnitude of plastic, the way it spreads into our air and our waters, most of the plastic in the water is actually in the water column or down on the seabed. But in addition to that, it's a lot more toxic than we believe. The last 2 years, we've had a lot of new studies and new information. 2 years ago, the Society for Endocrinology put out this report on plastic EDCs in health. EDCs are endocrine disrupting chemicals. They imitate chemicals. They often act, they're received like an estrogen, or they block androgens. And it takes the tiniest little bit, because hormones are measured in parts per billion, sometimes parts per trillion. So they are received by receptors that think they're getting a hormone, and they're getting, in fact, a disrupting chemical. These chemicals disturb the body's hormone systems, and they can cause cancer and diabetes, but also reproductive disorders, neurological impairments of developing fetuses and children, and death. This particular study went out on a limb and said, hey, we've been saying, yeah, we know that these chemicals and plastics are out there, but we don't know for sure what they're doing. The endocrinologists have said there are so many studies done in so many parts of the world with so many populations, backed by animal studies where we see what's happening with animals. They've been drawing a direct causal link between plastic exposure and human health. Our fast food contains plastics. 80% of fast foods, chicken McNuggets, hamburgers tested in the United States have plastics in them and the attendant chemicals. And phthalates some phthalates are also endocrine disrupting chemicals. They don't last as long as the more serious PFAS chemicals, which can never be destroyed and move up the food chain. But phthalates are mass produced. They're used for tons of commercial products. And Project Tender, a group of scientists and health professionals, are recommending that the entire class of phthalates be restricted until we know more about them. They say that what's happening is when a phthalate that is well studied is causing concern, a new phthalate that we don't know much about is put in its place. They liken it to a game of whack-a-mole. You get one of them studied and another one pops up. And the associations are hyperactivity, aggression, and attention deficit disorder, and other problems. One of the studies says that women who have higher levels of phthalates in their urine in their second semester have 3 times the probability that their child will be diagnosed with attention deficit disorder. All of us, 98% of us anyway, have phthalate biomarkers in our bodies. We've had 4 ways of dealing with plastic that have been failing us: recycling, doing cleanups, incineration and landfill, and developing new technologies. And I have been a devout recycler for years. And I will continue to enthusiastically and hopefully recycle aluminum, glass, cardboard, but plastic really is not very recyclable. When China stopped accepting recyclable plastics from around the world, it became really clear that we've been misled about the value of plastic recycling. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Products are made from thousands of types of resins that cannot be recycled together. They have to be sorted separately because they melt at different melting points. So 94% of our United States plastic cannot economically be recycled. Contamination is a major issue. One type of plastic can contaminate another. Virgin resins are often cheaper, so there's often no market for many plastics. And then when we do everything right, it could only be recycled 1, 2, or 3 times at the most. According to the Pew Trust, if we did everything right, if we restricted the amount of resins that could go into packaging, adopted some standards, they think mechanical recycling would probably peak at about 20%. So in the words of Judith Enck from Beyond Plastics, we are not going to recycle our way out of the plastic problem. Now, don't get me wrong. We should still recycle plastics as requested by our local recyclers, because they're 20%, even 5% is better than nothing. It's just that this is not Rotary's role. It's not falling here in the area of recycling. We need something better. Just as an aside, in this last spring, the California Attorney General subpoenaed Exxon to find out exactly how much they knew and when about the non-recyclability of plastic and its toxicity. That'll be an interesting one to watch. Cleanups are a popular go-to for groups like Rotary Clubs. They're fun. You can see immediate reward, but when your bathtub is overflowing, you don't just reach for the mop. You need to turn off the tap. So cleanups are good, but they do not reduce the amount of plastic that we have. So for our members of Rotary out there, we can think of it like before we had Polio Plus, Rotary Clubs year after year would be donating cots and clean bedding and iron lungs to help take care of the victims of polio. But when we got a vaccine and could prevent polio in the first place, then we were able to really get on top of the problem. We need to find and develop a vaccine for plastic. Incineration and landfill both have problems. Incineration has problematic emissions, and landfill runs out and is extremely expensive to build. We've also put our faith that new technology is going to help us, and we should be hopeful about plastic eating worms and bacteria and enzymes, but these new technologies will take 5 to 10 years before they can really be operating on a scale that will protect us from so much plastic waste. So turning off the tap for all plastic production makes no sense. We are still going to need artificial hearts and strong, lightweight bicycle helmets. Pretty much we can stipulate, and the world community agrees, we need to turn off the tap of single-use plastics and packaging. But what do we do? What do we replace these things with? If you're going to have a big Rotary event, what do you replace your plastic bottles or your paper cups with? What's the way to go? And the United Nations Environment Program studied 10 countries, the substitutions, the policies, and the regulations that they use to see the answer. And the surprising result was that the problem of single-use plastic is not the plastic, it's the single use. So let's take a look at this. Look at the CO2 impacts of various kinds of cups. The tallest yellow one is producing the most carbon dioxide, and it is paper with a polyethylene liner and a paper sleeve. If we go on over to the last yellow bar, that is a bio-based plastic. All of these disposable plastics are much worse than ceramics, stainless steel with polypropylene lid, or a glass cup, which can all be reused. You get the same kind of problem when we look at water usage. So 500 paper cups consume nearly 370 gallons of water to create, but using a ceramic cup 500 times is 53. 370 versus 53 gallons of water. And when we look at cutlery, you would think that it would take a lot of uses before stainless steel cutlery would break even against its disposable counterparts, but actually 2 uses of stainless steel utensils breaks even. And for decades after, those little forks there continue to operate with no more impact than what you use to wash them. So here's one of the big takeaways. When single-use plastics are banned and they are replaced by other disposables, we don't necessarily become more environmentally sustainable. These regrettable substitutes usually involve cutting down more forests, extracting more metals, or growing more agricultural products, creating vast monocultures of corn or bamboo. The bottom line is that anything that is used for only a few minutes and thrown away never makes up for the cost of extracting and manufacturing. It never makes it up. What the United Nations Environmental Program, the Pew Trust, Rethink Disposable, and Upstream are all calling for is going to require a huge behavior change and a switch from disposable systems to reuse and refill systems. So how could Rotary get involved? Policy changes, such as extended producer responsibility legislation, are going to be necessary, but Rotary clubs are not political advocacy groups. We can provide information and teach people about the best practices, but we're not going to be, I'm not suggesting we go down the road of political advocacy. The other thing, though, that is needed is behavior change. And let's poke at this just a little bit. Behavior change is going to be tough because many cultures, including US, Australian, have become, I mentioned that because I've seen people from both countries here tonight, have become addicted to the convenience of the throwaway lifestyle. Back in 1955, we came to a fork in the road and we took the wrong route. We know this now. We know information about the scale of plastic and the toxicity of it that we could not imagine back then. We need a new kind of normal. Normal is disposable and might look like cases of plastic water bottles. But a new normal could be something as simple as using insulated water dispensers and a washable cup. These are aluminum cups, and single-use aluminum is extremely bad for the environment. But when you can wash it and use it many, many times, it starts becoming a sustainable solution. When we did our event, we borrowed 1,200 pieces of cutlery from Sustainable Bainbridge, and we have people from Sustainable Bainbridge in our audience tonight. We borrowed these things and wrapped them in a paper towel, which would become the napkin, and people put them in a bucket, which we also borrowed from Sustainable Bainbridge's Tableware Lending Library, filled it with a little water, and washed them a couple days later in a commercial kitchen. It really wasn't that hard to do. We got a lot of comments by people who attended our event, and it made me realize that while we were lowering our environmental footprint, we were also teaching others. In fact, Rotary clubs are a perfect fit to inspire global change. We already have a structure where there are clubs in local communities. We're visible because we hold public fundraisers and events. We can tweak ideas for cultural context. For instance, a reuse solution that might work in one country might not work in another. And we've got people all over to help dig into the weeds of local needs and customs. Rotarians can be force multipliers. When we figure out how to run one of our events using refill and reuse, our Rotarians learn, and they often serve on other boards, other groups, and they can say, oh, well, you know, at Rotary, we did it this way and it worked out pretty well. And Rotary clubs are full of problem solvers, enhanced by the fact that we have people from all kinds of different walks of life, giving us different perspectives. And this becomes very important, this kind of influence, when you study community-based social marketing. This book compiles the results from tons of large campaigns run by utility companies and water companies that were trying to change behavior. And lots of money went into these campaigns, and the results could be measured right at the meters. And what they learned was that information and awareness programs alone do not change behavior. You can do a campaign to educate people, but what really changes behavior is when people are influenced by what other people are doing and don't want to be different. It's a deep desire to do what's normal. And if you and nobody else is acting on it, it is likely that perhaps you won't either. So who are these other people that can influence others? I think that those people should be us, and that the role of Rotary in ending plastic waste is on the left side of this bell-shaped curve, as innovators showing how it's done in communities that don't do much in reuse, that do a lot of disposables, or being early adopters in communities where several groups are already working on getting rid of disposables. When Rotary leans in and starts showing that this is something that we're doing, it helps to normalize that behavior. And I think it's an amazing opportunity that we can use our events and fundraisers to make this happen and to help teach by demonstrating and by doing. So imagine 1.4 million Rotarians quietly changing from disposables to reusables in their homes. That's not visible. It's really not going to be seen. It's going to make, it's a good thing to do, but it's when we do it loudly, show the solutions we've found, show that it's normal, that it's doable. That's when we're going to help spread the word and influence a change in behavior that is vastly needed. So the core project I'm encouraging clubs to consider is to make your club's public events, fundraisers, and meetings a living demonstration of how to ditch the disposables. As an aside, this core project needs a name. The working title has been Project Reuse and Refill. The founder of ESRAG, Karen Kendricks, has suggested once is not enough. And for you hardcore Rotarians out there, my suggestion is honk if you love Paul Harris. And that's with apologies to Cliff Docterman, my favorite RI president from 92 to 93, who wanted that to be his presidential theme. But seriously, this project needs a good name, one that will be sticky. Send your suggestions to me, and if we choose one, I will buy your ESRAG membership for a year. The project refill and reuse is like any other Rotary project. It's not something to just be dumped into the laps of already overworked fundraising committees. Plans need to be made well in advance because we need to be aware of local public health rules. We might need a whole new source of supplies. We need to know what kind of resources are around that we can borrow from or purchase and then loan to others. Plan a wash-up celebration. We're going to be washing some dishes, or pay a local youth group to do it, or rent it. And start with the easiest replacements and grow. You can take this project on in phases. And now a quick word about the wash-up celebration. Good people, good music, and bad jokes can make anything a lot of fun. And a well-designed wash-up celebration is a chance to meet and talk and bond and develop camaraderie and pride in what we're doing. We're in an era of social media, but this kind of work develops social glue. It's fun. And it's not going to be quite as convenient, but once you have the tools in place, it's not that bad. And where has convenience gotten us anyway? Rotary has a 4-way test. Convenience is nowhere on it. We don't ask, is it convenient? But we do ask if it will build goodwill and better friendships. Project refill and reuse can do that. And it can also attract new members and younger members. So to be perfectly clear, what is the most effective role Rotary clubs can play in ending plastic waste? It's leading your community in changing from single-use plastics and disposables. Now, there are many Rotary clubs that are in countries where the cost of labor is very low. At the RI convention in Houston this summer, a Rotarian from Kenya said, you know, we just don't have the disposable culture that you have here. We have people who wash dishes, and we just don't have that same demand on our time. And so for countries that are already ahead of the game, what can they do? There are some incredibly exciting next step ideas. Algramo is a company that was first formed in Santiago, Chile. The founder was very upset with the sachet problem, especially the fact that people who were poor were paying more per ounce because they couldn't afford to get a whole bottle. So they started offering refills of containers for soaps and products into reusable packaging that was that the customer kept. They refilled them, and the refills were brought via electric trikes. They now have become kind of big time. They've got different kinds of programs using RFID and cashless transactions in San Francisco and New York. But their start, giving an alternative way to refill, is maybe something that Rotary clubs could develop to bring jobs to local economies, help outfit tiny stores with some touchless refillable fillers. Rotaractor in Red Lodge, Montana led the way in providing a filtered water bottle refill station as a tool that their town needed. My club in Paulsbo, we don't have any of these things, and yet we do big waterfront events where tons of plastic bottles are sold. A refill station could eliminate that need. Castro Valley has helped Meals on Wheels convert from disposable to reusable food trays. I hope we do a program on the exciting technologies and startups that are out there and being used already. We have some upcoming events. We will have our very first social half hour on November 30th. This is a bring your own beverage. It's casual. It's for people who want to get together and talk about plastic and talk about ideas in a very casual way. We also have 2 campaign group organizing meetings. So what is the campaign group? We need a group of people who can brainstorm and then produce a campaign to inform other Rotary clubs of these possibilities, support them, build tools like a ready response kit when a club wants to start exploring the program. We're having them at 2 different times because we've got to cover an entire globe, and we hope that these 2 different times will make it possible for people who live anywhere to attend one of them. The QR code next to this is the sign up for our newsletter. If you sign up, then we can get you the information on these meetings. So the call to action to you is to challenge your club to eliminate single-use plastics and disposables in their meetings, events, and fundraisers, or to develop potential global grants where we can enable replacement systems for disposable sachets. The second request is to join the Plastic Solutions campaign. I hope you will consider joining in this fight. I think it is truly a way that Rotary could lead to true change. This is a river. It's the worst picture I could find. The very sick river. It needs us to create a vaccine against plastic. Reusables and refillers are that vaccine. So let's get to work and give it a shot, pun intended. Because seriously, a lifestyle that can create this is just not something we want to leave for our children. Thank you very much. And do we have time for any questions, Franz, or do we need to just shoot right on?
Sure. We have time for question, even if we be a bit longer because we wasted some time for this technical inconvenience. So I think if you look at our information from the chat, from the question which came in the chat, you can try to answer any one of them. Can you do it?
Yes. We've been asked, do you have any guidelines or resources you could share? We are trying to get the event center where our club meets to stop using single-use plastics. Excuse me, some strange message has popped up.
Yeah,
I think that these are things that we can certainly develop. Some of the ideas are incredibly exciting. Oh, I see. My video is down. Sorry about that. There you go. Here's an example that some people have used. If you get restaurants that all agree to have their takeout packaging be reusable and be the very same reusable stuff, all the restaurants in an area's customers can drop their packages back off, use a third-party dishwashing resource system, and as a group, make a very effective reuse packaging system for takeout foods. There are resources that I can share. In fact, I will get them posted to you on how to talk to restaurants about switching to reusables. I see something that just popped up that says, let's start with all Rotarians who have restaurants. That would be a fantastic place to start. In my own community, we just happen to have a grocer in our Rotary Club, and we are going to be exploring this because we can work with the grocer who already has bulk goods and package-free bulk distribution systems. So I will work to get that out. And if there's enough interest, I think a future presentation might be some of the very innovative programs that are being developed by startups and entrepreneurs and community groups to help provide the tools. Let's see if I have some other questions here. So what type of paper cups would be best? I'm
No
not
one.
sure that there is a best paper cup. The best paper cup would not be a paper cup or a disposable cup at all. And here's why. You never get back the costs of extraction and manufacturing in one use. You just can't do it. So rather than using paper cups, I would suggest that people bring their own bottles. If our communities don't have refillable bottle, filtered refillable bottle stations, that's something that Rotary clubs can do. And the idea of delivering products to people on an electric trike that Algramo did, is that an idea that we could learn from and perhaps use our global grants to help establish systems that are reuse and refill in small shops or small bicycle or trike delivery systems? I think there is just so much potential for us here. Do we have time for any more questions, Franz?
I think we should stop here because we have many questions, but there is no time to answer to all of them. But we are collecting all of them in our chat, and we will happy to try to give answer in some way to all of them later on. I have also to say that our Zoom will stay open after the end of the presentation for some minutes, let's say some 10 minutes, so we can try to go on with this question or maybe other question which arise at that point. Maybe Olderico, you can show the QR code which can be used to connect to us and to Lori and to our task force, so that if you take a picture with your phone, you can go directly there and be connected to all of us. Thank you, Olderico. I think that's time now to go to the other point we have set for this time, the presentation, and that's to share with you what we are going to do. So the annual plan of our task force. So I'm going to share my my screen. And if I can see how to, okay. So that's something in very quickly about the highlights of our annual plan from our task force. And you see again here our address, internet address, and also the QR codes you can scan to arrive to us and to arrive to ESRAG, which is the real help for all of us Rotarians, and also reference for non-Rotarians for anything which has to deal with the environmental sustainability. What is the top priority? The top priority is more or less what we have heard up to now, and that's to help clubs and Rotarians, persons directly, to eliminate the single-use plastic and all the disposable, which are the biggest part of the waste which goes around in the world, in the environment, and it's then hardly collected and disposed of. So we want to launch a campaign and create action plans to assist clubs to go in this direction. We will promote a project to reduce and refill, as Lori has explained before, to use something which is not disposable, but which you can wash, you can reuse, and so on. And this will then end with the World Refill Day, an event and a pledge program. To do that, we need to establish a team for operation, and that means that we are also looking for other people to come with us to to help in this action. And so that if you want to do it, you are welcome to come with us. Another goal is to spread the knowledge. This is something which we are doing since a while, and we want to create awareness of plastic waste issues, but not only in general, but also region specific, because we know that the situation is quite different from one to another region. There are places like towers in Europe, in many countries, where there is a good collection, a good separation of the waste, and therefore the possibility also to recycle a part of the plastic, what can be recycled, which is anyway a small part, and not leave it on the terrain. That doesn't happen in other countries, in other areas where they even cannot collect the waste. And so there should be a different approach, and we want to help our Rotarian friends to deal with that in any one of the places in the world. So that will be done with the liaison with the ESRAG regional chapter. ESRAG has regional chapters, and to help local activities. We want to encourage clubs to identify needs and resources, local needs and resources, and we will share information to develop action, and also to help developing global grants, so to get some assistance also from the foundation. Other part of our activity is to inform. So through our means, we want to provide up-to-date information on all plastic problems and solutions. That will be done through the website, blog, and the newsletter, the social media, and the webinars we are organizing from time to time. And we will also showcase specific projects so that everybody can find inspiration or help from what the others are doing. So here is another QR code that is probably the same you have seen before, which will lead you to connect and be able to subscribe directly to our newsletter, where we list all what I said before. Other goals are to assist clubs for global grants, as I said, and to develop a networking between clubs and other activities in this area, to increase the membership of Plastic Solutions in all regions, so that we can be more present and more active everywhere for this important activity. And finally, to develop an enthusiastic working team to do what we are planning to do. So that's a Plastic Solution, a task force of ESRAG, and we will be happy to welcome all of you in our team to be active and to be helpful in trying to reduce first, and possibly in the very end, to eliminate the problem of plastic waste. At this point, I think that we will just see if there are other questions specifically on this part of the action. If not, we arrive at the end of the time we have scheduled, and which was 1 hour, and therefore I will just I don't see specific questions, so I will just thank you very much for attending this meeting. I remember you to record the chat, which is a very large chat. There are a lot of nice and important information inside. I say again that we will review it and try to answer any question which are inside and which we have not been able to cover. So please, if you want to record it, you can click on chat and go to the three little dots, which will give you a saving option. Then again, this meeting has been recorded, so you will be able to see it again or to share with other people. It will be present then on our channel of YouTube, and this Zoom will remain open, hopefully, for the next 10 minutes for any other questions. So thank you again for being with us. I hope you will join us for the action we are doing and which I presented before, and I will be happy to see you again at our next meeting. Thank you.
You can open the microphone just to.
Thank you very much, everybody. You did a great job. And I feel like plastics is, you know, the single-use plastics is the huge, you know, elephant in the room with a lot of things with climate change is one of the huge issues. And it's so difficult. It's so difficult to try to solve this problem. So yeah, thank you for all the work you do.
You're right, Karin. I can just add after you that scientists consider that after climate change, which is biggest problem we are facing now, plastic problems are at the second place. So it's really something very important, urgent for the future.
Lori, I was going to say it's you're very impressive what you've been doing over the years. You're a classic example yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
We had a
I'd like
question earlier. Oh,
Yeah, let me just say one thing. Yes, cleaning up trash is not a very effective thing in terms of getting rid of what's in the environment, but it is an educational opportunity. And I think that's something we should not get too discouraged by this, okay? Cleanup days are important, especially if you're wearing your Rotary bling and you're out in the community, people are going, wow, what are you doing? And then you have an opportunity to tell them about the microplastics and about how horrible it is and about non-reusable containers. And so it's an educational opportunity, I think, that we should not, you know, downplay. I mean, I think it's important to be out there doing it.
Absolutely.
And talking about it. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is the first step, is part of the education, and has to be pursued for the future. Also, it's on the other side. It's also important to teach that there are other problems and there are difficult solutions to reach, which we have to work for. We have Prakash and Sam again.
Just for your information, we are feverishly working on a global grant project to be implemented in the coastal city of Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh, India. And we are expecting Jennifer Jones, our own RA president, to be there to inaugurate it. Hopefully, we are again working on that one. And we are also looking for, this is a last minute edition, of course, we will find the money, I think, eventually, to transfer the plastic recycling equipment from a manufacturing company in Coimbatore. So I'm requesting any Indian clubs over there, if you could join this venture and provide for the transportation cost, which was not included in the Global Grant project, which is about ₹3 lakhs. You computed how much it comes to in dollars, I don't know. But at any rate, it's a good news. This one of his kind, Lori knows about this project. We talked about it in one of these meetings. Franz, also, you also know about it. So this is a maiden venture of a plastic recycling project. Of course, it is not the end of all. It's just a minor attempt. It's a good project. I'm glad to inform you. This is an $80,000 global grant, and the Moinabad Rotary Club in Hyderabad is almost providing that kind of money from their trust to improve the scope of this project. It's a great. They think it's an ideal project to be implemented at other places in cities and towns in India. They're all business people. They're all Paul Harris Society members. So it is encouraging to me that our project initiated at the Rotary Club of Naperville is going to be a small model project for them as well. Thank you, Lori, for your effort, because you promoted it through ESRAG, our meetings. I participated through the time clock that you gave in both the presentations that I made on the project.
Thank you, Prakash. This project is available at ours, so anyone who wants to have more information about that, which is an interesting way of recovering plastics, also using the economic development, because it's giving some money to the people, the poor people who can collect the plastic, is something which is surely to support, and we'll be happy to distribute that to all who are interested in that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Franz and Lori, for your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Prakash.
Chris Bergen.
Yeah, thanks for a wonderful program. I just wanted to say I agree with Ann that cleanup programs are great opportunities to start educating and call attention to the problem. But I think Lori's slide with the bathtub and needing to turn off the spigot probably says it all. So good job, Lori.
They're both good. They work hand in hand. You know, we can attract people with cleanups and energy and action, and then introduce the idea that the disposability that's become so ubiquitous, that we need to rethink disposables.
There's $1 million statement. Rethink disposables.
There's
Perfect.
actually a group that's called Rethink Disposables, and they're doing some amazing things. I think that they would be a very interesting program to listen to.
Yeah, they would be.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to address a question I saw a couple different times in chat about aluminum water bottles. And I just want to say that aluminum is so energy intensive to create that it's sometimes called solid electricity. And it also, even when it's using, a product is using 73% recycled aluminum, it still needs about 30% more aluminum. As an alternative to a plastic bottle, it's not good. It has a higher economic or environmental footprint unless you wash it and reuse it enough times to reach break even. So I used to get so excited when I saw water in an aluminum bottle at zoos or places, but now I know better. And that's the importance of information, is that there are a lot of greenwashing and false information, false solutions out there. It's important to stay on top of it so we have the data that we can make informed choices.
Do you suggest the like the milk carton? What do they call those? Are they more recyclable? Oh, they're not going to get. They're not going to get thrown into recycling. Never mind. Yeah, aluminum is really highly intensive.
Stainless steel. Not stainless steel either. No.
That's a
reuse.
You can use glass. The old glass is still a good solution if you want to pack something. But the point here is to reuse. So anything you can use can be good if you can reuse it several times. At that point, you can choose any material you like. The point, as Lori said at the beginning, more or less at the beginning of the speech, which is a sentence from the United Nations, is that the problem is not in the plastic, but is in the single use. So if we can get out from the single use of everything, not only the plastic, we are concentrated on plastic here, but it's general. So our activity should go out from anything which is single use. That will help us, will help the planet, will help the future generation, will help all. Okay, I think that we spent the last 10 minutes. So if you agree, we can close also this last part of the after meeting, and we hope to see you next time. And meanwhile, please do your best to put in place this recommendation, and don't forget to join us at ESRAG and at the Task Force Plastic Solution. Thank you. And I will say bye-bye because someone is in the morning, someone is in the evening. So bye-bye.
Thank you, Franz. Goodbye, everybody. Good
Thank
luck,
you.
and I hope to hear from you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Great session, Lori. Great session. Thank you. Congratulations.